Okay, good. My name is Vytautas Buciunas, and I will be the moderator of this discussion today. So, the leaders of the transformation era, thank you for joining us today, and it's a pretty good selection. So, before we meet our distinguished speakers, the leaders of the transformation era, so first I'd like to give a small introduction. So, please put the presentation on the screen. So the central topic, the key topic of the forum is creating the future in a changing world. The main topic of our discussion today is leaders at the time of transformation. So briefly, I just want, for the context, for the introduction, to speak like, what is the changing world? What is the world and what leaders can manage to live and work in the changing world? You heard about the VUCA world. The American military created that some time ago. They're trying to explain what the world we live in, to actually tell that it's volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. VUCA. We've already heard that word. Now, the irony is that I think that pretty soon that this definition will be already an old one, and people will invent something more complicated because everything changes so quickly. As an illustration of the speed of the change, I'd like to bring this review, global review, from PricewaterhouseCoopers. So, one of the aspects this year they carried out with this research, they interviewed CEOs, almost 1,500 CEOs from 90 territories. And this is quite a representative number of people. And one of the aspects they were asking about, so which are the threats? What do these CEOs see as threats that can negatively impact the development of organization? What actually caught my eye, what I'd like to share, is in 1 year, just in 1 year, yes, we have 2018 compared with 219. How actually can this feeling change? Yeah, so, okay. Look at this image. I'll comment on the image. So on the left, we can see the recognized threats of 18. On the right, 2019. So the key changes. Look, on the list we have two new categories: political turbulence, political lack of political clarity, and trade conflicts. And we speak a lot about trade conflicts today. Why? These categories appeared because they are timely, because previously nobody thought about this, and right now everything is on agenda. They are in top 5. Then we have protectionism as a threat to business. It went to the top 10. It's in the top 10, so it changes. Accessibility of key skills came from 5th position to 3rd as a threat. It's interesting. Terrorism as a threat. Last year we had on the 2nd position. Right now where it is, 23rd. At the very bottom of the screen if you don't see it. Okay, so again, this is not just like an objective risk model. This is the feeling of CEOs, how they feel it. Geopolitical turbulence and unclarity went down a little bit because we right now have this political turbulence inside, and trade conflicts, economic conflicts, and the speed of technological changes. You can see it came from 6th to 9th position, and every day we speak about this, but still, even at this forum. But again, climate change and damage to environment from 9th position to 13th position. Again, every day the world talks about that. So what does it tell us? I don't want to discuss these specific things to go deep. This is just an illustration of the change speed. So many new complications are there today, like trade wars, protectionism, political turbulence and unclarity. CEO of global companies, they have to focus so hard to be focused inside and focused on survival within their countries instead of taking care of global existential problems like environmental problems, technological shift, speed, and so on. So in this dramatic context, our current leaders must not only survive but be successful. So another illustration on the world that we live in. So many libraries in many countries of the world have this joke that George Orwell is right now took from fiction department to political department to the political actuality department. So let's talk to our leaders right now. So we'll get acquainted and we'll find out what leadership do we need actually to survive in this changing world, and not to survive even, but to succeed, to be successful, to be sustainable. So with huge pleasure, I'll present our guests right now, and the first is Milan Lakhani, the Director of Business Development and Strategies of Konica Minolta, so the innovative center. I would like to remind you that Konica Minolta is a multinational company that works in approximately 180 countries, so this is truly a global company, and approximately 44,000 people are employed there, and more than 150 years. That is the age of the company. And Milan flew from London to us, so directly from London. One small comment: each speaker, when I was preparing to the panel, I asked them, our panelists, about their leadership style. What I heard from Milan, key 3 words: hands-on, yeah? So to be involved, coaching, meaning developing or training, and listening, the one who listens. So, Milan, welcome.
Да, и
And with huge pleasure, I also present Zhanna Kryuchkova, the founder of the consulting company Jansen Capital Management. And also she's the co-owner of the car holding Almaz Group and construction company Stikon. Zhanna, she gave a very beautiful answer to my question about the leadership style. She said, she used this wonderful metaphor. She told, I actually create these t-shirts, or I can give you a t-shirt big enough for you to grow into that, as she said. So, Dmitry Bondarenko, CEO of the LIGA company group and CEO of Ligamedia. The leadership style of Dmitry is soft power, as he said, and what I heard actually. If you have a wish, you'll have you can add something to the soft power. It's really an interesting statement. Like, do we have anything more prioritized in this? So, soft or still power? How do you find the balance? So, Dmitry, welcome. And we also have Dmitry Shymkiv, head of this director board of Darnitsa Group pharmaceutical company, and he's responsible for international strategic relations and planning and new technologies. So the leadership style is based on 3 pillars: result, people, and process. That's how Dmitry integrates American, Scandinavian, and German leadership styles in one. So, welcome as well. And the discussion will be started with one question to you all. So, it's more like so give me 1 minute. An answer in 1 minute, so a short question. So, please, your definition of leadership, yes? In the world, we have huge amount of leadership definitions. One professor told that there are 35,000 of the leadership definitions. I don't know how he calculated that, but let's add 4 more. What is leadership for you? Milan, please.
Thank you. So firstly, good afternoon, and thank you once again to the committee for inviting me back to beautiful KIEF. It's my second time around. I was here 1 year ago, so it's a privilege to be back here again as well. And thank you for the question. So leadership, in a sentence, so less than a minute in a sentence, I would say is about someone who is motivated and motivating, someone who is inspirational, and someone who's able to share a common vision and goal for their team to deliver towards. So being part of the team rather than leading from the front, actually being hands-on.
Okay, thank you, Milan. Zhanna?
So leader is a person who can see some opportunities and the person who is able to create an environment where other people working actually in an environment where they can become even better than the leader himself or herself. Yeah, thank you. Again, it's about the shirt that you give, yeah, the big shirt. So again, I'll formulate it. It's the ability or a skill to involve people in the process of goal achievement or mission accomplishment or the vision implementation of the company. People who take this vision as their own or the goal as their own, personalize it. This is the skill that this is like a voodoo or a kung fu, I don't know, it's like a whole philosophy. For me, this is leadership. Thank you. Okay, Dmitry. For me, leadership, I guess, is in 3 words. Aim, team, result. And result is important. Thank you, very concise. Thank you, thank you. I guess that will expand the definitions, we'll explain them. I actually wanted to start with this short question. And right now, I'd like to go deep, okay? Let's go deep. So, the changing world, the changing time, how the paradigm of leadership is changing, how the role of leader is changing. And I really want you in your answers to refer to your personal experience more, leadership experience, experience of working with people. And Zhanna, I'd like to start with you. So you actually are quite a successful leader and you continue being very successful. You're an entrepreneur, you work in different industries, consulting, car industry and construction. So these are traditionally, 2 of these are traditionally, let's say, masculine industries, let's be frank. So how this new paradigm of leadership is reflected in your experience? Is it different in different industries? So Zhanna Kryuchkova as a leader in consulting, in car manufacturing, and in construction. Are you different? Okay, very good question. Thank you. Yes, we have industries where I'm involved, and brain-intensive industries, classic ones, of course, and creative industry. We have consulting in the creative industry, Huxley project, maybe you've seen that. We launched it, and capital intensive, car manufacturing, and the construction company. And also the approaches are different. You need to have this palette profile and switch from one to another. Something that works in one industry does not work in others. So a couple of factors define that. So if you take conservative industry of construction, in this industry, still there will be no co-production. Co-production will go to creative industry like publishing houses, consulting companies. Generally, we go to shared economy, I guess. If we look at Uber, the same thing is for leadership, the shared leadership. The shared leadership or co-production, co-creation even, this is a trend. But in construction so far it doesn't work. It's still not there. Why it doesn't work? Well, this is defined by the mentality of the industry, its conservatism, its maturity of the company within the industry. That is what defining. And I think that here we have this, we also have the change, but it's more for R&D department, but not for the whole company. Some changes are there, but not that fast. And for consulting or for publishing house, the co-production and the stress on followers, but not on the individual leaders, this is okay for the industry. This is a trend. This is something normal. And there will be no other thing if you want to get the result in these industries. Thank you, Zhanna. And also, apart from these roles, you are the co-organizer of this wonderful forum as well. And I think, yeah, it also shows how great leader you are. So not to take all these privileges and credentials to me. So the program committee from the first forum, yeah, I've been there in the committee from the first forum. So Zhanna, just to expand the question a little bit more for you. You also are involved in the family business. Yeah, so you're part of the family business. Is it so specific? What does it bring to your life, actually? So it happens so that I'm an entrepreneur, and all my family basically is entrepreneurial, starting from my brother, my father is there, my mom is involved, my husband, like everyone. We have this. We are revolving around the same thing. So we have a company where I have a company where I'm together with my brother. In another company, I'm together with my father. For me, this is a positive case. We have this succession strategy where somewhere I am the second generation, somewhere I'm the first generation. So like I have different statuses and different roles. So this is a gradual movement. I'm in the FBN, in the Family Business Network also. Thanks to this organization, 10 years ago, I guess, I became a member of FBN. I had a very clear plan, and we actually have the plan right now working. So you need knowledge for that. Thank you. And right now, I'd like to pass the floor to Dmitry Bondarenko, because you also are a member of FBN, of the same network, and you are a representative of the third generation of the family which holds the business. And your family, your parents are somewhere in this hall, yeah? So your experience is really interesting for us. So the new paradigm of leadership adds some aspects, something specific that family business brings to that. So how is it possible to demarcate your entrepreneurial leadership? Yes, so how is it possible to separate? How is it possible to be leader both at home and at work? There is a joke. Do you have time for everything? You do so much. I say, oh, I don't know how to find time. Like, how do you find time? So how can I actually separate these things, some personal things, family relations, fully from business? So it's a challenge. It's a certain challenge that we all work a lot, really, on the culture, on the corporate culture, management culture, communication culture. We try to incorporate step by step, stage by stage, the principles of corporate management. We try to share the operational management responsibilities and control functions. We try to observe the situation. We try to shift the roles all the time. We have this hygienic procedures within the business, so we finally managed to put that in order, and it allows us to efficiently manage the portfolio. We have 14 companies. More than 3.5 thousand people work in all these companies. So this is, I can say this is real. It's a real story. So if you go back to the key question, the main question on what actually is leadership today, how it should look like, I see definitely that all management models are shrunk, let's say. So if we had this multi-layered vertical structures, they become simpler. They're not so complicated. And we also use flat structures, horizontal structures. The fewer, so this is a challenge. This is a challenge. You need to do this. So for key decision makers, they must be closer to market. So they must be placed horizontally to their clients. They must get communication faster with them. So respond faster. Speed goes up. The speed of response tells you to restructurize your business, your structures, restructurize your corporate culture, and the role of leadership here is expressed brighter. So this is a catalyst. In my opinion, in my understanding, this catalyst pushes you forward. If previously you could just stand high in the sky, high up, but right now you need to be closer to the ground. If people can see you, you need to be visible. You must comply with the role that you actually have, with the position. Everything becomes more transparent, more fair, clearer. So with all the results, so you must comply with that. You must have the necessary competencies, you must have the necessary mentality, and you must be at your place, you know? So these are the challenges that all industries face. Some industries already face that. Some industries will get that in a couple of years, but this is highly likely because this is the reality we live in. So do I hear you correctly that the role of leader in this, so the role of leader goes up? If anyone could be the leader, like an image more, you know, of actually a knight in shining armor on a white horse, but right now this is an involved person who works hand in hand, so shoulder to shoulder. He works with other people. So yes, so the personality in business plays more and more plays higher and higher, bigger and bigger role. If previously you were something like a god, something who was worshipped, you know, and everybody wanted to touch you at least once in a lifetime, you know, and basically no one saw you like a Rockefeller or something like that. But right now it's not real in current world, and when the god goes to the ground, the grassroots level, he still the god must show something to the world, some magic to be believed in, especially when we speak about the transformational processes, but not about building something from the scratch. It's easier to construct than to reconstruct. It's also easier to build than to change. But if you are already in this image, in this position, you just need to confirm it all the time by enhancing, by doing something better than you can. So this is a huge challenge, and it's really cool to see how people manage to do that. Thank you, Dmitry. I think that we'll turn to this divinity issue. Okay, so Dmitry, let's continue with this talk, the new paradigm of leadership. Please add an aspect of a technological context to that. Okay, broad technological context. So you are involved in high-tech industry. You worked in Microsoft. Right now, Darnitsa becomes a very high-tech company. And even between that, when you worked in the administration of the president, you were responsible for digital projects as well. So what does it add? How can it change the leader's agenda? Thank you. I really want to go back to the presentation that was in the very beginning. You compared the environment, current business environment, with the definitions, that something with the military. Yes, the military definition, you picked that. So one of the current trends in leadership, we have this definition called, for Darnitsa, this is a value, extreme ownership. Extreme ownership, it's really hard to be translated into Ukrainian and Russian because, it's like enhanced ownership, feeling of property, feeling like it's the feeling of owning something. So the Navy actually proposed that. So the sense is that every person in the team feels his or her responsibility for the result, for the final result. It's like the result must be tangible for each of you. So in current business, in modern business, each player, each person has responsibility for final result. And there is no option like, okay, the department was to blame, the company is to blame, the partner is to blame. Everyone, every single person is responsible. And this approach really helps the companies to transform during changes, because change and transformation is permanent. If you really expect, if you take the indicators, so look at these threats, look at the fears that businessmen have. It's about something they cannot affect, policy, geographical wars, something that business cannot actually influence. Something that business can influence and goes down or takes the same position in the list. So if the change is a permanent new norm, so if it's a normal condition, we all the team and each of us, each player separately must know how the change occurs. Why does it occur? And how each of us can benefit from this. What use can be given for a team, for a company, to each of us, okay? With examples, if we speak about Darnitsa, we understand that rebranding, yes? So we have our new logo here, yeah? And when we talk about rebranding, the change of style, it's not only about changing just the logo, it's about changing the philosophy, changing the values, changing the approach of how you work with clients. You need to look for new models, which are not even here in Ukraine. Sometimes they can emerge in some countries, like pilot projects, looking for something that is non-standard. And that's why we come to digitalization, to high-tech. Well, everybody talks about digital, but when we speak about digital, mostly people, they don't even understand what that is specifically. Okay, okay, it's like we all use smartphones and use PowerPoint. No, it's about digitalization of processes and understanding why you need that. So the data that you accumulate inside, because if at the previous panel there was a question, do you use artificial intelligence? If we want to use machine learning or AI, we need data, a lot of data. If we speak about the speed of the processes, you need technologies that allow you to streamline. In Darnitsa, we actually already shifted to digitalized processes for the life cycle of products. I mean, the pharmaceuticals designing, and gives you enormous competitive advantage. We use robots. Why? When people see our storage, our warehouses with 4 robots there bringing something to different, like, whoa. By the way, it's family business as well, so the decision of owners, we made that decision 10 years ago. It's not like, wow, we actually thought about that 10 years ago. Now we use the technologies which will definitely be there on the agenda in future, and we know what can we do with pharmaceuticals today. What can we do for preventative medicine, for 3D body parts printing, because all the opportunities for business are in the future, and today the whole team must be inspired from the changes themselves, by the changes. Dmitry, a very important thing was mentioned right now. I'd like to ask you the digital or technological literacy for the leader. This question we also had at this very same forum last year. For you, is this a competitive advantage or a hygienic requirement? Hygienic requirement? Okay. I'll tell you a story I had 10 years ago in Microsoft. They had 10 years ago. So we had a leadership team collected, and we discussed like where the consumer is, where we are in the market. At that time, basically, Facebook only started to grow. It was only launched, and it happened so that we had no big budgets and no investment in social media development, and we saw that the shortest way to prosumer is in the social media. And during the conversation, I asked people in the team, who are in the social media? who has the profiles? It's like a stupid question, but who of you are in the Snapchat? Okay, for young Generation Z would raise all their hands, because in Snapchat your consumers are today. Like we talk about Facebook so much, it's already habit. Young people, our future and current consumers, they want Instagram more, so they prefer Instagram. So when one of my employees, one of the directors told, it's just a waste of time. You know, you need to find a new job, because in order to talk to your clients, to your employees, to understand what they think about, you need to be closer to them and use all technological means that you have. If you're not ready, find another industry where you don't need this. But I can't say which industry can refuse from digital, even construction. Thank you, Dmitry.
Your question, to continue on the new paradigm of leadership, what is the new quality of leadership, including how the role of a leader changes, and how it is manifested in your really multicultural environment, if you could touch this multicultural aspect.
Sure, of course. So picking up on the point from before around change, I think change is the only constant in life, but I'm also now thinking, is it adaptability and change? We have to learn to adapt to new environments. And what this means for a company like Konica Minolta, 150 years young, and a family of 44,000 people, it's really thinking about new ways, shifting in terms of our mindsets. We might say a paradigm shift in the way we think, but not really forgetting where we come from. I think that's a really important point. We have to be proud of who we are, what our heritage is. And when we think about culture, it's really understanding what is culture. And often, in fact, here since yesterday and today, so my name is Milan, and people say, right, first question, where are you from? Because your accent sounds quite British. So, well, I am British, but okay, I was born in East Africa. Ah, okay, but well, I'm third generation Indian by origin. My ancestry is Persian. So what do I know about culture? A little bit about adaptation and learning. And in a corporation, which is quite traditional in terms of being Japanese, hierarchy, you refer to, this is how it should be done. In the academic days, we used to say waterfall, step 0, step 1, step 2. Only when you've completed certain stages, you can move on. We, let's say in Europe, we're saying we're much more agile and much more flexible, we adapt. But in fact, the shift in terms of culture now is also to learn and respect each other's ways, but also introduce to the generation X, Y, Z, I don't know, alpha, social, whatever new generations are coming in, and making sure that the cultural part is not top-down. We, even as leaders, have to make sure that we learn from the new generations, because there's a lot to learn, and not saying because we're leaders, we direct the way forward. So it's making sure that that cultural part is also bi-directional. One final point, if I may make as well, is we speak about transformation or digital transformation. And I'm also getting to a stage where I'd like to drop the word digital. And I was discussing this with some colleagues over lunch, because it is about transformation, and one of the pillars must be digital. Other pillars are business readiness, culture, talent. How do we attract talent? Because we know Ukraine has amazing talent, and last year's forum was very much, I'd say, more theoretical. It said, what does Ukraine need to do to achieve X, Y, and Z? Now, I really like this year even more. It's how do we maintain and shift this part of transformation? So it's really disrupting ourselves as organizations, as a country, and as a company. And the point I was going to make is thinking about entrepreneurship versus intrapreneurship. And often we say, we're a startup, but we would like to work with startups. In your organizations, in your teams, also look for innovations, but also look for innovators, because they exist. Find a way to create a mechanism so other people can really thrive in that creative environment.
So do I hear you correctly that the element of entrepreneurship or even entrepreneurship becomes critical in leadership as well?
Hugely. And in fact, I can give you a live example. Within Konica Minolta, we've created what we call a technology innovation program. And it's led not by the business innovation team, but it's actually led by our European human resources team. And the essence is we are known traditionally as a product-centric company, and we are transforming into an IT services provider. And as a product, we don't really speak to customers. You mentioned about customers and really getting client-centric. So we're saying that HR is driving this change for cross-collaboration. So this year we have a program, it's in the 5th year, for 6 months, about 55 people in the organization across Europe. There are 18 countries represented. We have around 40% women, and they work 10% of their time to work and develop either a product, a platform, a prototype, or a service based on real business challenges. So entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship are critical for us.
Thank you, Milan. Важным или даже критическим элементом лидера.
So, for me, one of the most critical elements of the current business development is entrepreneurship. So, okay, I'd like you to work a little bit. I want assistants to bring this to the screen. One question, simplified version of the question that derives from that illustration or image. So which key threats you as a leader face today and what you prognose to appear in future? Which are the most negative for you? Which can negatively affect the growth of your organization? You actually know how to vote, I guess, in this small referendum. So slido.com, you can see the code 5679, very simple. Please pick one that is actually important for you. So people who are sensitive to statistical methods, that may be hard. Maybe these categories look very raw, but okay. What actually can you select? Together with speakers, we will come to the results. Maybe we'll comment on that a little bit later. And right now, I'd like to come to the second block of questions. So we defined the leadership, okay? We talked a little bit about new paradigm of leadership and how leaders actually express themselves. And right now, more specifically, I'd like to ask you about quality of a leader, of current leader in this new paradigm, and how these leaders should develop. And to talk about development, development is one of the central topics of the forum. Not only abstract, but you actually, how you develop yourself as leaders, how you grow as leaders, how you help people in your teams to grow leaders in themselves, potential leaders, how you help other leaders to flourish and become mature. So the key competencies, the ways of development, how you do that. So Zhanna, let's come to you. Okay, first thing is that current leader mustn't boast and mustn't overestimate oneself. The CEO Nokia presentation, like he claimed, who can actually be equal to the giant? And Apple was launched. We all know the story. So again, what Jack Ma mentioned yesterday, be modest in your head. So try to be modest. Always try to think of yourself as a small one. So this is the quality that we need to have. So please be a little bit of Isaac Asimov, be a little bit of fiction writer. If we were small kids and parents told us stop dreaming, but dream today, read, invent, dream. Huxley magazine, we have this publication there. So we have this publication about utopias and anti-utopias and some recommendations on what to read. So the second quality is critical thinking. And I'd say that this is not, well, critical thinking and creativity can live in one head, in one person, but they complement each other. What is critical thinking? When we actually act, we do something, we are lazy. We want to use some templates to act, some instructions. You remember the books that were the bestsellers up to recent time? So the habits of highly efficient people, like what is okay? But yeah, but any habit can turn into a template, you know, and it somehow obstructs critical thinking. So my advice for your personal development as a leader and for people you work with, change habits. Sometimes revise and clean your habits. Put the old ones out. So be modest, critical thinking, creativity, and also another aspect is ethics and morale, because technology flourishes. You remember the yesterday's last presentation of Khmelnytsky, where the robot advised us, he told us, the decisions you make depend on the algorithms that you will install in me. So today, ethical issues, they are very important. They are equally important for leader as well. Zhanna, I don't want to actually finish right now with you. So as leader, how you develop the attitude to yourself, the attitude to your team, how you help other people to develop their skills, how you combine different forms of development. Is there something new that we have? So if we take a closer look at creativity, for me, the creativity itself is that I'm present in 4 industries. It's creativity already, and I'm constantly shifting from one paradigm to another. And second thing is, once a year I go somewhere to learn, to study long-term programs, shorter programs abroad, Singapore, Sweden, Switzerland, America. This is my standard. So if I don't do that in a specific period of time, if I don't study, I feel myself like frozen. So I always then share the knowledge after I return. So the participation in the forum, my program committee of the Economic Forum, this is the part of my development as well. So this is how I can get some pro bono activity for myself, yeah. With this huge network abroad, I can bring speakers who can share some knowledge with the Ukrainian audience. But I take this also as a mission, my mission. If I have a resource I'm an entrepreneur. I have to share the resource. And it's about development as well. So about creativity. People who work in a company, for example, yes, at some moment they will get an offer to take a project in other industry, in our company, and I take this as a moment of development for them, a moment of change. I always recommend everyone to come to Economic Forum. I had this wonderful dialogue once with the innovation leader of Singapore Bank. It's the most innovative bank in the world, and he told, I recommend all my managers to actually be a member of the director board of the company in different industry elsewhere. So go somewhere, like when you switch off from pharmaceuticals to construction, or from construction to car industry. This is valuable. This is real value, to switch off, to reorient. So give them non-standard tasks like that. Thank you, Zhanna. So transdisciplinary, multidisciplinary knowledge, integration of different ways of performing your activity. So I can take all the time right now if I tell on how I develop my team. So Dmitry Shymkiv, we have two Dmitrys sitting close, so I will also spell the last name. So the key qualities and forms of development. So the first thing I would speak about open-mindedness, being open to something new, something non-standard, be always in the search of new things, of something interesting. Second thing is about emotional intelligence, of course. EQ becomes more important than IQ, of course. So one of my favorite questions at interview, especially for managers, I'm always interested, like, who will you employ, a professional or a good guy who knows how to study, how to learn? And it's interesting for me to observe how different people come through different management stories, and which cultural specificities are there in this person. So EQ is very important. Empathy, working team, understanding of the team, working with people, it becomes more and more important than professional skills, because professional skills can be grown. We have a lot of technology to do that. But EQ, if you do remember, I spoke about extreme ownership. Each person in the team understands his role and is ready to go in and replace the partner if something happens. The third quality, to be result-oriented. To be oriented at result. Remember that basically result is an indicator to define your efficiency. So like we say, we are a business, we're socially responsible, yes, but there must be a bottom line. If bottom line is not reached, you're bad business, you know that. So if you don't reach your result, if you have no profit as a company, I'm sorry, this is a failure. And remember, business, it's about business always, because social responsible business, but business with results still. So open-mindedness, EQ, and result. Forms of development, I'll speak about myself, because what I believe in. I fully agree with Zhanna about switching off, but I'd like to switch off to something else, to something non-standard. I love sport, and I love yachts. I love the water, and I had this trip to Antarctica actually on a boat, because basically I had no digital technologies there. Like, you have no connection. Everything you see is just nature, water. Rocks which are billion years old, and you have this, you are ignited internally. You actually have some time to meditate, you have some time to think. Business is great, but sport and yachting, it allows you to, well, during the race, you understand that you cannot be the captain at all points that are somehow connected to the boat management. So you have a team. Basically, everything depends on the team. An Olympic champion, Rodion Luka, like a couple of years ago, we talked, and he criticized me when I was trying to help all my employees, all my partners, partners who were in the boat to reach the result. Rodion gave me one recommendation, actually. If you have a team, if your team is failing, if your team does something at a lower level, if you start helping them, you actually fail with your role, and you all fail. So it means that you need to train more, and every person must actually reach the best result in his own area. So that's when you work well as a team. For me, sport is one of the sources of it's a source of inspiration. I just observe how people interact there. And for development, I really recommend you to read, to watch, and to subscribe for the news that we have in the world, for global newsletters. Because when I observe many Ukrainian businessmen and entrepreneurs or start-uppers, many people focus on Ukrainian news or translated news. So please, guys, so many things are there in the world, so many news there, vlogs, blogs, podcasts, anything. You can listen to anything right now, and I do recommend you in the world. There's so much going on today, so please, these sources, they do allow you to see the world as it is, not just to limit yourself to this small pond. There is an ocean. God, there's a huge ocean, so learn and find something that we can use here in Ukraine. Dmitry, thank you. Yes, I hear about a very important, so being curious, it's very important. This natural curiosity, without this, leadership cannot be even imagined. Yes, and thank you for the metaphor about yachts. Yes, definitely. This is my hobby as well, so I know what that is. I love the boats, I love the water. So Milan.
To continue with you, what are the key qualities and competences, and please touch on both. And how do you develop them, and how do you help your people grow, people in your teams, and balance different sorts of development?
Great. I agree with both opinions so far as well, especially the emotional intelligence part. And we as leaders, and all of us in the team, need to build skills to know what empathy is and know how to empathize. And so lifelong learning in terms of personal development.
Sorry to interrupt you. Can you please elaborate on it a little bit and explain your version of empathy?
Yeah, sure. So often, trying to put myself in the shoes of others is what people say. Put yourself in the shoes and imagine how they think. You can't. You just physically cannot, because you don't know their whole history. But empathy is really finding some common ground of emotional connection. And we might say intelligence. We refer to intelligence. One of my favorite quotes, as it happens, is, if you are the most intelligent person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And I like that particularly. Yesterday, Jack Ma briefly referred to intelligence as well. He said, in the last century, we developed a lot of intelligent people. That's great. This century, we have to build and develop a lot of people that are wise. So emotional intelligence is really, for me, about wisdom over experiences, shared experiences. And shared experiences with your team. I really strongly support the fail fast model. And that's one of our philosophies. I actually prefer learn fast, but fail fast is more industry related, meaning not everything in innovation is going to succeed. We know it's not. About 90% of ideas that you incubate will not succeed. And out of the 100 ideas, it just takes that one. But making sure that we take the lessons from all of the other ones. So if in the team people are not delivering in terms of results, doesn't matter. But make sure there's support. Of course, we need to keep an eye on the bottom line as well. From a learning point of view, I agree with my panel fellows. So I wake up every morning and I read a whole load of magazines online. just to absorb what's happening in the UK, and we all know what's happening in the UK, so I have to look a bit abroad and try to keep up, for example, Ukraine, right? So what is happening here? How do I keep abreast of the information? One critical point is being aware of where your source of information is coming from. Because we know, for example, fake news and deep fake are on the rise. So trusting the source of information that you read and discussing it. So in our team, we discuss different, it doesn't have to be just work orientated. So that's one part. And making sure the final thing from a team development point of view, I myself am also training every year, and the rest of the team are also sent on training courses.
Thank you. I'm also curious. So you mentioned basically critical thinking, and you do it with you do it by discussing those issues with your team.
Absolutely. So, for example, 2 years ago, we started daily stand-ups. It's very pragmatic. Daily stand-ups for a team of 20 people every morning for 30 minutes. And what this means is that every person has 1 minute to share what he or she is doing for the day. What they did yesterday and what they're doing today, and any problems that they have. And then if 2 people say, yep, I can help you with this, take it offline. So it's really pragmatic.
Wonderful. We really need these practical tips from all the speakers, yes, to make it more practical. And one more little question to you, Milan. Empathy and emotional awareness. What are the ways you develop that? Coach.
Thinking time, reflection. I think all too often in the pace of Industry 4.0 or the 4th Industrial Revolution, things are moving so fast that we forget to pause and reflect. And I think upon reflection, identifying some of the lessons learnt, what went right, what didn't go right, and why. I think the why part for me is critical. Understanding that things may have gone well, great, why? And something that may not have gone well, why? And that way you can really then start building that empathy view in a different way.
How do you pause? Do you have a meditation or mindfulness practice or whatever? What's the practical?
Not quite practicing, but actually my way of pausing is a little bit different. I listen to podcasts. And just to throw, it could be the science of art or something around martial arts or just completely random topics that I know nothing about, because it switches my mind off to start thinking about something different.
Switching between the subjects.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
И Dmitry,
Dmitry, I'd like to pass the floor to you right now with the same question. So, the key qualities and forms of development. So it's hard to say. So many substantial things already have been said. So for me, what is important? Trust. It's a skill. It's really a skill that you use in your work and you actually nurture in your team. You grow it. Because the right to make mistakes is a culture, of course. It's a habit that you need to first grow in yourself, then in your team. I think this is important. You will never actually have any development without it. So I do agree with everything that I heard from the panelists about the EQ and empathy. I would definitely add communicative skills to that, because this is very important to bring some information, to hear and to stimulate people to share information, to absorb information, assess information, work with it. In our current reality, this is very important when a lot of information noise, a lot of everything that covers the truth, yes, and to find it in the proper time, in the proper moment, and use it, it's a very important skill, as I think. So also the critical thinking, but I will add to that. So for myself, I form it as a proactive exit out of your comfort zone. So it's not like when you're so open-minded and so curious, but also when you stimulate in yourself and in the team the ability to act in a different way. Okay, so if you know how to do and you actually do that, so these are different things. For you, it's important to respond quickly to what you've heard, what you've seen, very quickly, very, very quickly, to make decisions quickly. And your team must be ready to grasp these initiatives generated, identify whether these, let's say, these may be a correct initiative, an incorrect initiative, but there always must be a trust on which you build the relations. So a skill is when you use it. This is the skill. Just extend the question a little bit so we all understand, I guess, that changes are inevitable, and changes have become the only stability that we have, the only thing that we have today. So our nature is about resisting the changes, of course, and for many people, it generates this turbulence, generates anxiety, and anxiety actually brings resistance, conscious or unconscious, subconscious. So when I only started working in the banking industry 20 years ago, the most progressive leaders told about changes, but changes were taken then as something that we have today but won't last there tomorrow, but something that you have to overcome. But a lot of resistance today, and I think you do face that resistance. You actually try to fight it somehow. You have it in your companies, organizations. Well, leaders, can they help people to overcome this natural resistance to changes? How do you do that? Empathy, EQ, does it play any important role in that? So let's start from the beginning. Yes, we all resist changes. If we dig deeper, why it actually happens? We are afraid that the models that we've built and our advantages and strong sides, that they will not work in the same conditions. So if we actually continue working with ourselves, and if we do understand that change is the new reality, change is the new stability, so this process has certain strong sides that will help us to adapt. And when I see, for example, right now I'm not talking about the audience in front of us, everybody here is the agent of change and the driver. Okay, let's talk about different people, other people. We all think that there's somewhere there. So if they're afraid of changes, and if I understand that I can actually nurture this proactive culture, people who know what strong signs to use, this is an advantage for me. It motivates me, because I understand that yes, it's hard to use this spear to kill an elephant, actually, but if we understand that the land under them is changing, if we have rocks or sandy soil or water, you can actually take the elephant. If he's close to water, you can take his trunk and do anything you can actually want to do. So I think that if you take another position, so it allows you to have another vision of the problem. So you have a problem or you have an opportunity. It's the answer to the first question. So what I do personally, so something that brings me out harshly from the comfort zone, like, okay, recently, well, my trainer, I have a personal trainer every day at 7 a.m. I have my sessions, and I tell my trainer, come at 6:30. I don't know why I'm doing that. I'm almost killing myself with this, but I don't know. I'm creating this small inconvenience for myself, and I will actually get used to that. So I'm looking for something that creates inconvenience for me, something where I'm not that successful. I look for these gaps. I look for these things that which I try to turn into advantages. I'm challenged so much by people who surround me. So if we speak only with someone, if we speak with different people, with different circles, different categories of people, it actually motivates us to make some decisions and high quality information. Find some information, video podcasts, events, books. Actually, we have this discussion, is it good to read books? I love reading books. But I don't have enough time for that, so I'm more serious when I pick the books. So you are in the business, so you basically know, yeah, we do have the media business, so we actually have the right recommendations. Thank you, Dmitry. Zhanna. So, must the leader be in some way a psychologist? Should he be a psychologist and help people surrounding him or her, and how to help to adapt to the changes, how to recognize this anxiety and become more mindful? Yes, he should or she should. And again, coming to Jack Ma, leader in the modern world is a teacher, is a pro, is an instructor. And if you want to get some practical examples, so we have a person from our construction company whom we actually, he's a school teacher, German language teacher. We took him out of there, so in 3 years. So he was at a very, let's say, modest position. He has been with us for 3 years, and again, coming to this oversized shirt, every month he sells real estate property with total amount of sales for 120 million hryvnias. Yeah, so this is the result. The person sells. Our teachers, this is our biggest value. Okay, I want to see the person. Larissa, please identify yourself. We want to see you. So, a German teacher, she is, and she actually told me once when she only came to us to be involved in marketing just as an average employee, like, please explain me what marketing is. Like, okay, remember these 4 P's? I'll add 3 P's and we'll have 7 P's, and we were moving step by step. And in half a year she told me, okay, it's the same like school, you know, to talk, to support, to evaluate the results, actually, to check, to motivate. So basically, answering your questions, yes, leader must be a psychologist, because business is not technology. Business is about people. If we have people, we have psychology. This is a must-have. Thank you, Zhanna. Do you actually want to add something about empathy or EQ? Because the topic is really important and it's everywhere. So it's really hard to find any reputable business magazine without publications telling us about importance of EQ, empathy, mindful leadership. Many write about this. Yeah. So emotional leadership, we can give a lot of definitions for it. So Petriti's model exists. Maybe I'll go a little bit to these higher professional areas. So your welfare is a part of EQ. It's about optimism, happiness, and mindfulness, and control over emotions, and ability to actually manage emotions, and social awareness. And each of these blocks definitely is important for a leader, and you need to develop these. One of our professors in the Swiss Business School, a psychiatrist, he told that actually your genetics, what you have in your genes, what you were born like, this is you, this is one of the part. But if you want to become someone else, the person you become is actually, this is your choice. So if we understand that business is about people, if we understand that we will work with people, emotional intelligence, we do need it, empathy, the ability to listen, the ability to feel other people's emotions. Without this, we will never build the communication efficient enough for a team and for the outer world. Yeah, and understand each other and hear each other. That's important. Milan.
To ask you, and it's already a good, sign of a good tone to quote Jack Ma in this forum. So my my quote is from yesterday. He asked why you worry, why people worry. You worry because you don't know. So again, the anxiety which is coming from this VUCA world, yeah, and how do you manage it in yourself, and how do you help people around you adapt to this changing world?
I just want to pick up on the last part about emotion. One thing I'm still learning is to be emotional, but not always to show emotions in different environments, because we need that time to pause and think about and listen of what is the situation and be very fact-based in your decision. Because all too often, and in my experience, when I've worked for various leaders, some have been super emotional, or we might say passionate, and actually end up with a completely wrong conclusion. So I think emotion is very, very important. And in terms of my role, how to drive this empathy or change. So when we started, a very practical example, we started and established this Business Innovation Center in Europe, and we have 5 Business Innovation Centers globally. We were sponsored by and established by our CEO, so it's a great way to have belief in an investment and the business of innovation. The challenge I had was we started from scratch. So we were founding essentially a company within the company where traditionally it's been very product-centric. So the question was, do people follow a leader or do they follow the first follower? And that for me was a reflection point. So yes, I was empowered to try and drive this change with the team, but what are the basic principles? How do we, change doesn't happen overnight. So the very first challenge I had was to try and find ambassadors, the people like a first degree network, the people that believed in your talk, that believe in your inspired by your vision. And then you start having your first followers. And it's like a ripple effect. You know, when you throw a stone into the sea, it starts rippling away. The first circle within your stone are your first followers. The rest then advocate your, let's say, sense and sensibilities, your leadership, your belief on your behalf. I had no friends at Konica Minolta. Now I have, thankfully, some here as well. So how do you build trust? And we discussed trust before. Why would someone trust me when I've just spent 16 years at an American company and started working for a Japanese company? And I have a little bit of knowledge around innovation, that's it. So that's one of the things. So find the first follower or followers, trust them, coach them, because they want to learn from you and learn from them about the core business. And now we're 5 years on, so we're quite well established, but still face different type of challenges.
Thank you, Milan. Dmitry.
Dmitry. Okay, so to make this a little bit more complicated, Shymkiv. So, making this a little bit more complicated because I actually want to do this. So, we speak about these high things like leadership, new paradigm of leadership. Okay, and we really have these serious things here mentioned like EQ, critical thinking, ability to communicate, and involvement of people and other things. What things do we see around us, especially in political context? The more and more, I guess, the more and more leaders, they come from the opposite trend, from the opposite model, authoritarian or dictators or manipulative leaders, populists even, who offer very simple decisions. The saddest thing is that there is a demand for that, because the majority of these leaders, they come from democratic systems. They are born, democratic systems give birth to these leaders, and many people really want to have this firm, strong hand providing specific solutions, and no responsibility will be there. So help us to understand why this is so polarized. In business, we have so many examples of mature, adequate leadership, and we can see this opposite trend flourishing. What is the role of the business leaders? I'd like to say that not only in politics, but also in business, we have the same story, because there's so many stories of huge capital, which was generated from the fraud, from manipulation, and there's many companies which lie, and there are many companies which look perfect in public, but ask banks about their financial capacity, and you'll actually have another picture. Please look at dynamics. of their CFO's behavior, the compliance to the rules and standards, and the world will look different to you. And beautiful, nice companies will have another reputation then. So let's try to understand why it happens. Two industries we have which taught us this, which actually were the pioneers. Technology or high-tech and pharmaceuticals. We actually got used to clicking, click fast, fast result. Like is like, you know. One of my friends in the US, he told this, and I was switched off for a couple of minutes from the conversation. I was shocked. We live in a society where it's so easy to make friends with people and so easy to stop being friends. We just delete someone from our contacts, from our social media. Okay, so you're not my friend anymore. This is such a simple philosophy, but if you go deeper, one click, one dislike, one like. We have this definition. Again, I took this from my friend. Dependent on likes, and our politicians, they depend on likes, and businessmen depend on likes, and the higher you are in the hierarchy, the more you depend. So quick actions, quick results. Everything is fast. You're right, you get the feedback. Whoa, cool, you look great, and that all. So pharmaceuticals, magical pill. We all know what that is. One pill, you have headache, we have a solution. Take that. Like, okay, you have a heartache, we have this. So, you know, we have this habit of looking for fast, simple solutions quickly, instantly, in a blink of an eye. Complicated, complex, national and social problems, they cannot be solved quickly. People who worked in complicated business systems, they know how hard it is to change something, anything. You need to understand how expensive it is, the results, how you do it, how much time will it take. But we want to like and dislike quickly, and we don't understand why do we need to amend the laws for so long? I want to have it tomorrow. The printer must work. Everyone must vote. Who is not voting? If you disagree, please leave the room. This style is formed in our society. We may like it or not, but this is the reality. We live in this world. Not just us. It's not just Ukraine. France live like this. Germany, Spain, the US, Japan, China. Okay, China a little bit less maybe, but okay. But still, this style and this expectation of fast result, instant result, it creates a platform for people who can talk nice and sell well. They go to the stage, he gets the applause, many likes, and then the results. We don't pick CEOs for the companies with likes or dislikes. Sorry. So the CFOs is not selected because of his presentation. I have this nice question when I talk to financial department people. So CFO made a mistake which cost $100,000. Okay, what can we do with CFO? So the people who are candidates for this position, they cannot give me the answer. If I say 200,000, 500,000 mistake, million mistake, million worth mistake, okay, so it's easy for me to observe the transformation of a person who starts understanding the impact. In my life, a person who makes a mistake, I fired a person in 5 minutes during a break because the key shareholder told me that it's okay, it's a failure. We do not need to have these people here with 1 million worth mistakes. So when you speak about changes, about quick shifts, about simplicity, it takes time always. And when we speak about politics, I'm really happy that I finished my political career, and I can say that finally I did it. So yes, we need changes are difficult. Empathy, project management. We need to know how to do this. For many politicians, they don't know how. They don't know what how is. They don't know what the experience of state management, of public administration. I speak about many countries. I spoke about this to many politicians. So, Dmitry, thank you. Zhanna, something from you. Yes, coming back to this firm, strong hand. Yeah, we have this definition. It's called this triangle, the text, the context, and the subtext. So actually, why do we want to have this firm hand? To find a place to stand on, a ground, to believe in this big father or big brother, because the world is so turbulent, the world is so unclear, someone who will give us the instruction, the same thing we have in the company. This difference between industries, somewhere it's clear, somewhere it's not that clear. We notice that economic and social conditions in country are so turbulent, and global turbulence is there. People really are ready to get instructions. Sometimes they don't know why they need to do this. They just want to do something. They just want to obey to this firm hand. So there is a category of people afraid of freedom, and this category of this segment is substantially increasing. That's what I see in the companies. How to help these people to free themselves inside? Okay, it's a question that we can talk about for 1.5 hours. Okay, so education, awareness raising, and education. Again, if you want more responsibility from a leader, start from yourself. All changes, leaders changes, employees changes, start from yourself. So the brief answer is to explain, to educate. Thank you. I'll just answer. So please, use that. Use that. Okay. But we can manipulate this. And business and politicians, they do that. So it's not something gruesome, it's not something horrible, because if we take the Steve Jobs strategy or Bill Gates strategy and, I don't know, Jeff Bezos or Jack Ma, because beautiful story is a beautiful story, but please remember how structures work, and it's always interesting. I've been reading so much about marketing, in marketing publications and the biographies. When I became a politician, I had to read how beautiful stories are being read, so different beautiful stories. And I have this different, like for example, I have this different vision when it comes to Lee Kuan Yew. So people grow not only when we take their competencies, but also when they become more mature. It's about their professional maturity and how consciously competent they become. So leaders may manipulate. They can use this slave's instinct. I think each of us has that somewhere inside. People do not demonstrate progress but regress. So what is the responsibility of business leader? So you should understand, if we speak in different industries and in different categories of employees, we have people who are interested to come in the morning and to go home in the evening. So from 9 to 5, yeah, principle. So they are okay with that, with this lifestyle. So if you take the population in different countries, which interests are comfort, quality of life, and they are not interested in the mechanisms, internal mechanisms, how and when. 60% of Americans never actually receive the foreign passports. They don't go anywhere. So it's okay for them to have the comfort in the environment. For these people, for this category, and we have these employees as well in big companies. If we speak about big industrial corporations where we have people working on industrial lines, they need this. But we have white collars who are creative, who want to create some breakthroughs, stimulate some breakthroughs for the companies. And I'm ready to work with these innovators together. For some category of people, this is comfort. Please, I understand that we can use these big political mottos that we want to make the world happier, but for some people, this is happiness. They are raised, they were brought up, and this is their way of thinking. Please don't judge them that hard. For us, it's important to climb the Everest, to prove something to ourselves, to invent something, to be creative, to join teams, to inspire. This is what we think of as happiness. We cannot be the same. We are different. So I will compliment that, yes, a little bit. So we don't have a task when we talk about leadership in the company. We don't have a task to make everyone everyone happy. So we have a task to inspire the environment, to nurture the environment where we will grow these talents, to actually notice the talents in due time and somehow to connect them with the company's interests, connect their interests with the company's interests. So it's not like we will say, okay, all of you, I will make you happy right now so hard, yeah, so happy that you will not even leave this hall. And one more, if you allow me. Just a couple of words on authoritarian approaches, on dictatorship. We have some trends, a little bit controversial trends. So, on the one hand, we notice that there is a globalization that goes in parallel line with the creation of these niches, small niches, and we actually see that there's a strong demand for firm hand, but we all are inspired by inspirers. Maybe I will not give you, actually, well, maybe I can't agree that firm hand is a mainstream, but we respond to the demand. We don't want to go deep. We don't want to actually take the responsibility quite often. For us, it's comfortable. If I trust Igor, if I like him, I want to trust him. So he tells me, Dima, let's go there. And if I don't switch on the critical thinking, for me, it will be comfortable to go somewhere with Igor. So he leads me somewhere and 1,000 of people follows me because I'm led by Igor. This is easy. It's easier to live like that without going deep. This is what we see. And the demand for this so-called firm hand, this is the response. This is the response to the trend.
An accent.
I'll come at a slightly different angle about happiness. Can we say, yes, we cannot make everyone happy, but one of the trends that we're seeing is what makes a happy and healthy environment in the workplace. Because happiness constitutes for you to remain at the workplace when we know talent is a scarcity. So in a way, we do need to create the environment that people are happy and healthy. I guess it's a prediction really, that in the next 3 to 5 years, I would say CEOs will begin to be measured on the state of happiness and healthiness of their organization.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Я хотел бы попросить сейчас ассистентов вывести на экран.
Okay, so dear assistants, please bring the results of this small referendum that we had, the voting results. Okay, so actually, it somehow corresponds and correlates to that global question, key question. So people see that the problem is inside. So the political unclarity and turbulence and lack of economic stability within the country where business is functioning. And the second thing is low access to key skills and competencies. Very interesting. So geopolitical is almost there, so 24%. 3%. So do you want to comment on the result for us to have some 5 more minutes for questions from the hall? So I think we can see actually that we take these 4 questions. If we take these 4 questions, so political turbulence, internal political turbulence, so it's more for local business, I guess. That's why people are not concerned with geopolitical issues, because we worry about something that actually affects us, because the trade war between China and US, it's too far from us, and right now all the struggle that we have in Africa or in India, Brexit is somewhere far away from Ukraine, the same thing. So this is something that we're afraid of. Internal problems, internal turbulence, something that affects us. Okay, lack of access to key skills and competencies. I was very glad to see that. Oh. Now we have not even 27%, but 31% real-time voting. Okay, so Dmitry comments, and the lack of access grows. Okay. That is how we affect the market. Thank you, Dmitry. So I fully understand why we have this result, but it's sad. For me, personally. I'll explain. For the last couple of months, I've been actively analyzing and talking to macroeconomists because one of the statements that we've had yesterday, the understanding of outer environment I cannot control, I cannot impact, but it can influence me. So the crisis forecasts. So everybody understands what actually happens with the European Central Bank, the situation with the yields, that the economy is getting overheated. So everyone is trying to actually put the cards in front of us and try to interpret what we get. Everybody try to forecast. So the global crisis will never be generated because something happens in Ukraine. It will never come from Ukraine. But the trade war with China and Brexit dynamics, that may impact the crisis. And the world crisis, if it starts, we will definitely feel the crisis in Ukraine. So right now, I share my professional experience. I try to trace this geopolitical turbulence, which will influence the Ukrainian turbulence. I understand what happens in Ukraine, but the level of geopolitical unclarity and the speed of changes, this is a harder challenge that somehow stimulates me to be well aware, more informed, to see those early signals to correct the policy of the company to develop. Zhanna, I take this as a part of the game with the audience, so the common game. So we cannot take this as serious research because, again, let's think critically. It doesn't mean that together it should come to Facebook and people will start commenting on that. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. It will be there and people will quote it and publications will quote it. So at Economic Forum in KIEF, there was a research carried out and these are the results. Yes. Coming to critical thinking, first report you showed us and the first research I disagreed with. Again, this is also another research. This is a research that involved the opinions of some CEOs. It has already exist, just like other research. But if we actually analyze the audience of the research, the target audience, and the people that were interviewed, then we can have some better conclusions. But my personal selection was a little bit different. For example, I helped to bring foreign speakers to conference. I have 2 speakers who weren't able to come because of Lufthansa strike on November 8th, 9th, 7th, 8th. Yes, also 1 speaker from Lebanon couldn't come because they have also strikes and demonstrations and some turbulence in there. So if you really want to know the world, well, we Ukrainians want to know what's, we want the whole world to know about us, but sometimes we don't know about the world. So please, make proper conclusions. Yes, I will agree with Dmitry. Please, open your eyes wide. Look at the world, because don't be that isolated. This will impact you definitely. Thank you. Thank you for your opinions. A couple of minutes we only have right now for 2 questions, I guess, from the hall. And if you do have questions which require brief answers, we will be grateful. Please, if you do have. So the last row, please, give the microphone. Thank you. My name is Tatiana Goncharenko, and my question, top 3 characteristics of the modern leader for you. What you distinguish as top 3? Tatiana, thank you. We already discussed that. You actually want to have the summary. Good. So, quickly, just briefly.
You heard the question.
Yes, top 3 leaders. Inspire, be inspired, and be results-driven.
Thank you. Zhanna?
Zhanna, please. Creativity, critical thinking, EQ, and ethics is the fourth. Thank you. So involvement, competence, and flexibility. Thank you. Open-mindedness, emotional intelligence, EQ, and result. Thank you. So we have this wonderful summary for the discussion, and I see one more hand, and I think we'll finish with this question. Yeah, we really need to have a microphone passed. Okay, so good evening, Anton Kazakov from Kharkiv. Any person can become a leader or not? Very good question. I'll just add another aspect to it very briefly. So, can anyone become a good leader, and are leaders born, or do people become leaders? Milan.
Yes.
Thank you. Люблю конкретных.
I love concise people. I like people who actually give these answers yes as well. That is yes. I'm sure that every person is a leader. We just have different circles, different zones, different areas. You can always find a group for which you will be a leader, but then it depends on the goals that you set in front of you. So we talk about leadership, we use this vertical approach. But when we talk about leader and his team, it more depends on the characteristics of every individual on the team. Is this person ready to develop? Is this person ready to take responsibility to become a leader? Can you actually set the goal and be so much inspired to work for this goal? This is selection, purely selection. I think the right answer is yes, but I don't know. That was the right answer, yeah. Good. I think this is the point where I will express my huge gratitude for this wonderful, lively, dynamic discussion. To all the panelists, thank you. And again, I'm so grateful to the audience, and I do wish you all to have a nice finish of the forum. And let's actually evolve as leaders and as people. Thank you.